You were not created for comfort, nor for the shallow pleasures that vanish as quickly as they come. You were created for something far deeper, far more beautiful. At the very core of your being is a truth. You were made out of love, for love, and to love. Life is not a series of empty days to be filled with noise and distraction, but a sacred journey, one that calls you to discover your true purpose. Many people today wander through their lives without ever pausing to ask why they are here. They chase after careers, possessions, and recognition, thinking that these things will finally bring meaning or peace. But when they are alone in silence, the emptiness begins to speak. Their hearts whisper, there must be more than this. And there is. You were created with intention. You are not the result of an accident, a statistic, or a random event in time. The breath in your lungs is a gift. The beating of your heart is not owed to you. Every moment you are alive is a sacred invitation to choose what is eternal over what is temporary. But so often we live as if we have forever. We waste years entertaining what drains us. We waste our minds on distractions, our emotions on bitterness, and our strength on pursuits that are hollow. Meanwhile, the quiet call to live with purpose goes unanswered. To know that you were created for a higher purpose is not about arrogance. It's about awakening. It's realizing that life is not something to survive, it's something to give. Each of us has the capacity to bring peace where there is division, to bring joy where there is sorrow, to bring hope where there is despair. This is not just for a few saints or holy people, it is for all of us, every single one. But the path to that kind of life requires a decision. You must choose not to live in fear, not to live in selfishness, not to sleepwalk through your days, numbing yourself with entertainment and comfort, while your soul grows weaker. There is a greatness that is quiet and humble. It's found in the person who forgives when it hurts, in the one who helps without needing to be seen, in the heart that stays faithful when it would be easier to walk away. This is the life you were made for. Not a loud life, not a glamorous life, but a meaningful life. A life where you know who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. When you begin to live from that place, you will find a peace that cannot be shaken. You will realize that even your suffering has meaning. Even your loneliness can become a space for growth. Even your failures can be turned into lessons that build you into someone stronger, kinder, and wiser. This deeper purpose doesn't mean you must become famous, rich, or powerful. In fact, those things can easily become distractions. Purpose isn't about how big your impact is. It's about how deep your love goes. A mother who raises her children with patience and tenderness is living her purpose. A worker who treats everyone with dignity, even when no one is watching, is fulfilling theirs. A young person who chooses kindness over popularity is living a life aligned with what they were made for. You don't need a stage or a spotlight. You need courage. You need silence, reflection, and honesty. You need to ask yourself hard questions. What am I living for? Who am I becoming? What will I leave behind? You were created for more than comfort. You were created for courage, for sacrifice, For love that is not based on feelings but rooted in truth, the world will offer you 1,000 counterfeit versions of purpose, but they will all leave you tired. They will all leave you longing, and that longing is not a curse, it's a compass. It points you back to the reason you were made. You were created by love itself, and your life will never make sense until you give yourself away in love. That is the truth the world tries to drown out with noise and distraction. But if you stop, if you listen, if you seek, not for a moment, but with your whole heart, you will find it. And when you do, you will know this is what I was made for. So many people spend their entire lives chasing things that do not nourish their souls. They wake up every day believing that if they just earn more money, gain more followers, buy more possessions, or achieve one more milestone, then finally they will be happy. But that kind of happiness is an illusion, a mirage that vanishes the moment you think you have arrived. The soul is not satisfied with material success. It is not fed by the applause of others or the shallow comfort of luxury. Deep down, we know this. We've all had moments when we finally got what we thought would make us happy, only to feel just as empty or even more lost than before. We live in a world that constantly tells us we are not enough unless we prove our worth through external achievements. Advertisements and social media paint pictures of perfect lives, always just out of reach, and we fall for the trap. We think that our value lies in what we own, how we look, or how much attention we receive. But these are poor substitutes for meaning. They are fragile. One moment you are celebrated, and the next you are forgotten. One moment you have success, and the next it can be taken away. When you build your identity on these things, you are building a house on sand. There is a kind of hunger that material things cannot satisfy. It is the hunger of the heart, for love that is real, for peace that lasts, for purpose that transcends circumstances. You can fill your life with possessions, yet still feel completely alone. You can surround yourself with people and still be emotionally isolated. That ache is not something to be ashamed of. It is not weakness. It is a sign that you were made for more. Many people numb this ache with distraction. They fill every quiet moment with noise, music, entertainment, constant scrolling, because silence feels unbearable. But in that silence is truth. It is in the quiet moments when your soul speaks, when you realize that something is missing. Instead of running from that feeling, it's worth listening to it. It's trying to lead you home. It's not telling you to give up on your life. It's calling you to redirect it, to reorient yourself towards what really matters. There are countless stories of people who reached the height of success by the world's standards, only to discover how deeply unhappy they were. And there are just as many stories of people who had little by way of possessions or fame, yet lived lives of profound joy and peace. The difference isn't in what they had, it's in what they lived for. The soul does not ask for riches, it asks for truth. It asks for love. It asks for connection with something beyond the surface. It's tempting to believe that just a little more will finally bring satisfaction. A little more money, a little more praise, a little more comfort, but the truth is that the goalpost keeps moving. What satisfied you yesterday will no longer be enough tomorrow. That's because you're trying to fill a spiritual need with physical things. It will never work. You are not just a body, you are not just a mind. You are a soul. And your soul longs for something eternal. The tragedy is that people often realize this too late. After years of striving, after broken relationships, after burnout, they look back and see how much time was lost chasing what didn't matter. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to reach the end to understand the beginning. You can stop now and ask yourself honestly, what am I chasing and why? Is it leading me to peace? Is it making me more loving, more alive, or is it draining me, stealing my time, my joy, my clarity? Living for what does not satisfy is a slow erosion of the self. It robs you of presence. It keeps you anxious, comparing, performing, pretending. It may give you moments of pleasure, but not the depth of joy that endures. That kind of joy comes only when your life is rooted in love, not in being loved for what you have, but in loving others for who they are. It comes when you live in truth, even when the truth is hard. It comes when you recognize that your worth is not something you have to earn, but something you already possess, because you were created with it. You were not made to chase empty things. You were made to live a full life, a life where peace is not dependent on your circumstances, a life where success is measured not by what you have, but by who you are becoming. When you stop investing your heart in what cannot feed it, you make space for what truly can. And that changes everything. There is a quiet danger in always waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for more clarity, waiting until the pain passes, until you're more confident, until you're ready. But life does not pause for your hesitation. Time moves forward whether you're paying attention or not. And while you're waiting, while you're delaying what matters most, something precious is slipping through your fingers. Your life. Many people come to the end of their days with a sense of regret, not because of what they did, but because of what they didn't do. Not because they failed, but because they never even tried. They stay silent when they should have spoken, stay still when they were called to move, and stay stuck in fear when freedom was within reach. It's easy to tell yourself that tomorrow will be different, that next week, next year, or sometime in the vague future, you will finally begin to live the way you were meant to. But tomorrow is never promised. And the longer you postpone your awakening, the more difficult it becomes to change. You begin to settle, to adapt to a life that is smaller than what your heart longs for. You stop believing that real joy or real purpose is possible. You start to accept a shallow peace, a peace that's built on distraction and routine, not truth. But you were not created to live a life of avoidance. You were not made to walk through your years asleep, disconnected from the fire of purpose within you. The longer you ignore that inner voice, the more restless you become. That restlessness is not your enemy, it's a gift. It's your soul trying to get your attention, trying to wake you up before it's too late. Don't wait for tragedy to show you what matters. Don't wait for a loss to remind you of what you still have. Don't let suffering be the only thing that forces you to see the truth. You can choose to awaken now. You can choose to see that time is not something to waste. It's a sacred opportunity. Every day is filled with chances to love better, to live more honestly, to forgive more fully. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. The perfect moment may never come. If you wait for all your fears to vanish before you act, you will wait forever. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act even when you are afraid. And there is no act braver than choosing to live with intention in a world that profits from your distraction. The danger of waiting is not just that you'll miss out on joy or success. It's that you will miss becoming the person you were made to be. Every day you delay, a part of you is left unrealized. Every day you stay silent, someone who needed your words goes unheard. Every day you choose comfort over calling, the world becomes a little more cold, a little more dim. You were given this life not just for yourself, but for others. Your time is not just your own. It is meant to be offered, invested, and poured out in love. People often assume that change needs to be dramatic or immediate, but the most powerful changes usually begin quietly. One decision, one moment of honesty, one act of humility, one step toward healing. These things may seem small, but over time they shape your soul. They turn your life into something radiant, but none of this can happen until you stop waiting for a sign and begin living like the sign has already been given. You have been given enough. You have been given breath, thought, feeling, and the ability to choose. You don't need another miracle to begin. You are already a miracle. The question is not whether the time is right, but whether your heart is open. Whether you are willing to trade the illusion of control for the beauty of surrender. Whether you are willing to stop drifting and start directing your days toward what is good, what is lasting, what is true. Pain will come in life no matter what you do. But when you waste your life, you add to that pain unnecessarily. You create your own suffering by denying your soul the nourishment it needs. You inflict wounds on your own heart by living in ways that betray your deepest values. You were not made for that kind of pain. You were made for the kind of life that, though difficult at times, leads to peace, not just in your mind, but in your spirit. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not someday. Now is the time to look honestly at your life, to make the changes you've been postponing, to reach out, to forgive, to begin again. Because the longer you wait, the harder it gets. But the moment you choose to act, everything begins to shift. The pain of honesty is far less than the pain of regret. The pain of growth is far more beautiful than the pain of wasting the life you were gifted. Choose now. Choose what matters. Wake up. We often think of freedom as the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want. That idea is appealing, especially in a world that prizes independence and personal choice above all else. But true freedom is not the absence of limits. It is not indulgence or rebellion. True freedom is found in choosing what is right, even when it costs you something. It is discovered in the quiet strength of discipline, the courage of restraint, and the clarity of conscience. When you live only by your desires, without boundaries or purpose, you may feel free in the beginning, but eventually you become a slave to those very desires. They begin to control you, to dictate your choices, to rob you of peace. Freedom is not about escaping rules. It is about living in alignment with truth. A person who always chases after whatever feels good in the moment ends up lost, unstable, and empty. But a person who chooses what is good, even when it is difficult, finds a strength that cannot be shaken. That kind of strength brings peace. It brings dignity. It brings a deep, steady joy that doesn't disappear when circumstances change. The world will try to convince you that freedom means avoiding commitment, avoiding sacrifice, and avoiding pain. But real freedom embraces those things when they serve love, justice, and truth. Look at the person who lies to avoid consequences. They may seem free, but inside they are anxious, always afraid of being found out. Look at the person who chooses bitterness over forgiveness. They may feel powerful in their anger, but in reality they are imprisoned by it. Look at the person who gives in to every desire, whether it be for food, lust, control, or attention. They may call it freedom, but they are not. They are caught in a cycle of need that never ends. Their life is ruled by whatever emotion or craving rises next. That is not freedom. That is bondage. Freedom grows where truth is honored. When you make decisions rooted in truth, you begin to walk in a way that is steady and whole. You are no longer trying to impress or escape. You are not driven by what others think or by what your impulses demand. You act from a deeper place, a wiser place. You become able to say no to what is harmful and yes to what brings life, even when it is uncomfortable. That is the kind of freedom that changes everything. It is not easy. The path of real freedom often looks narrow. It involves choices that others may not understand. It may mean walking away from comfort, speaking the truth when it is unpopular, or staying faithful when it would be easier to give up. But this kind of life, one guided by love, by responsibility, by conscience, is not a burden. It is a liberation. You no longer need to wear masks. You no longer need to chase approval. You are no longer a prisoner of your own desires. You are rooted, you are clear, you are free. It is a paradox of the human condition. We often gain freedom by submitting to something greater than ourselves. Not submission to oppression or manipulation, but to love, to truth, to goodness itself. These are not chains, they are wings. They lift us beyond the pull of our lowest instincts and allow us to become fully human, fully alive. When you live this way, you begin to feel a strength in your soul that nothing outside of you can give or take away. That is why people who live with integrity, who choose kindness when they could choose cruelty, who live with discipline and self-control, they may not be the loudest or the most admired by the world's standards, but they possess a rare kind of peace. You can see it in their eyes, in the way they speak, in the quiet confidence they carry. They are not perfect, but they are free, not because they do whatever they want, but because they have chosen what is right. And anyone can choose this. You don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need to be known. You simply need to be willing to face yourself honestly, willing to admit what is hurting you, willing to let go of the lies that keep you trapped. It starts with small choices. telling the truth when it's hard, being patient when it's frustrating, choosing forgiveness over revenge, humility over pride. These are the choices that lead to freedom. Not the kind that the world sells you, but the kind that your soul longs for. Freedom is not cheap. It costs you something, but what it gives in return is worth everything. It gives you peace. It gives you strength. It gives you the ability to live without fear, without regret, and without shame. And that is a freedom no one can take from you. Each day you are alive is a gift that many never receive. You may not always feel like it, especially when you're tired, overwhelmed, or burdened by things you don't understand. But the truth remains, every morning you wake up is another chance to begin again. You are not bound by yesterday's mistakes. You are not doomed to repeat the patterns that hurt you or others. You are not stuck unless you choose to stay stuck. Each moment holds the possibility of a new direction, a new decision, a new kind of life. But too often we take this for granted. We treat time like it's endless, like we can afford to keep putting off the things we know matter most. We assume there will always be another opportunity to say I'm sorry, to forgive, to love, to change. But life doesn't make those promises. It moves forward with or without our participation. And still, it is generous. It keeps offering us a new page, a new breath, a new hour to become who we were created to be. No matter how broken your story has been, no matter how far you've wandered, you are never beyond the reach of redemption. There is no failure so deep that grace cannot meet it. There is no wound so wide that healing cannot begin. The power to change doesn't come from willpower alone. It comes from honesty. It comes from recognizing where you've drifted, where you've given up, where you've believed lies about yourself. So many people carry shame from the past as if it defines them forever. But the past is a place of reference, not a prison. It does not have to dictate your future. What matters most is not what you did then, but what you choose to do now. El finole che dia gunda mainea iona espacio. And now is always here quietly waiting for you to wake up to its promise. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. The voice that says you've missed your chance is a lie, meant to keep you from trying. That voice is not the truth. The truth is that the path home is always open. The truth is that healing takes time, and time is still being given to you. Every second you breathe is proof that it's not over. It's not finished. Your story is still being written, and you have more power than you think to shape it. It doesn't have to be a grand beginning. You don't need to change everything in a day. In fact, real change is often slow, quiet, and invisible at first. It starts with choosing to speak kindly to yourself instead of with shame. It starts with deciding to forgive even if you still feel the pain. It starts with reaching out, with taking one small step, with saying yes to growth even when you are afraid. These little beginnings matter. They are sacred, they are powerful, and when done consistently, they reshape everything. You are not defined by how others have treated you, nor by how long you've been lost. The moment you decide to begin again, something shifts. Even if no one else sees it, even if nothing on the outside looks different, something real is born inside you. A flame, a desire, a strength. And that inner shift becomes the foundation for the new life you're building. Not a perfect life, not a life without pain, but a life of courage, a life of meaning, a life that moves in the direction of wholeness, even if it takes 1,000 steps to get there. Don't waste the chance you're given today. It may seem small, it may seem unimportant, but it's everything. The decision you make today, how you speak, how you think, how you treat others, can become the turning point of your story. Every day of your life is another invitation to become more fully yourself, to grow deeper in love, to leave behind what no longer serves you. Don't wait until some future version of yourself arrives. Begin now as you are, with the doubts, the wounds, the uncertainty. Begin now. The world does not need more perfect people. It needs people who are willing to start again. People who are humble enough to admit they've gone off course and brave enough to correct their path. Your willingness to begin again will inspire others to do the same. Your honesty will create space for healing. Your courage will ripple outward. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin. You are not powerless. You are not forgotten. You are here, alive, and that means you still have a part to play. Don't let today be wasted. Don't let the moment pass without asking yourself what kind of life you want to build and what kind of person you want to become. Begin again, right now, right here, because that is where all transformation begins. There is a deep longing in every human heart to be known, to be seen for who we truly are and still be loved. And yet many of us live behind masks, afraid that if others really knew us, knew our failures, our doubts, our weaknesses, they would turn away. So we perform, we pretend, we create an image, hoping to earn acceptance through appearance, through success, through control. But all of this leaves us feeling more isolated, not less. Because what is the value of being admired if you know that admiration is for a version of yourself that isn't even real? What is the use of connection if it's built on illusion? No amount of applause can fill the ache caused by hiding. The irony is that the very thing we're afraid of, being truly known, is also the path to the love we're most desperate for. You cannot experience real love without vulnerability. You cannot build real relationships without truth. The people who love the false version of you don't really love you. And the people who could love the real you never get the chance if you keep hiding behind layers. Hiding may feel safe, but it's lonely, and over time, it steals your joy, your identity, and your ability to be present. Honesty is difficult. It requires courage to admit you don't have all the answers, to confess your struggles, to speak the truth even when it's uncomfortable. But honesty is the soil in which true freedom grows. Without it, everything becomes fragile. Your relationships become conditional. Your peace becomes performative. You find yourself constantly calculating how to be seen rather than simply being. But when you live in the light, when you choose truth over image, you begin to breathe more deeply. You stop carrying the weight of pretending. You allow yourself to be human. And in doing so, you invite others to be human too. Some people fear that if they reveal their true selves, they'll be rejected. But in reality, most people are hungry for honesty. They are drawn to authenticity. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for something real. When you speak with honesty, you offer others permission to drop their masks as well. And what grows between two honest people is sacred. It's healing. It's what we were made for. A relationship rooted in truth can survive storms because it's not built on illusion, it's built on trust. Honesty doesn't mean saying everything you think or feel without filter. It doesn't mean using truth as a weapon. It means choosing integrity over comfort, choosing humility over pride. It means being willing to be wrong, being willing to grow, and being willing to face the things inside you that you'd rather ignore. That's where the transformation happens. That's where grace meets you, not in the persona you project, but in the real, unpolished you. That's where healing begins. When you live with honesty, your relationships change. Superficial conversations give way to meaningful ones. You stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. You begin to notice the beauty in others, not because they're flawless, but because they're honest too. The more honest you become, the more compassion you find, not just for others, but for yourself. You begin to see that being imperfect isn't shameful. It's human. And when you stop running from your humanity, you start living from your soul. Devices. It takes strength to be honest in a world that values image over substance. But that strength is worth developing. Because at the end of the day, the peace you're searching for doesn't come from being admired. It comes from being known and still being loved. It comes from aligning your life with what's true, even when it's messy, even when it's painful. When you live this way, you stop fearing exposure, you stop fearing judgment. You begin to stand with dignity because your worth is no longer tied to performance. It's anchored in truth. You don't have to share your heart with everyone. Not everyone has earned that trust. But you do need to be honest with yourself. That is where the journey begins, when you look at your own life and ask hard questions, when you refuse to settle for a shallow existence, when you stop pretending that everything's fine when it's not. That kind of honesty is not weakness, it's wisdom, and it leads to a life of depth, of connection, of real joy. The choice is always yours, to keep hiding or to step into the light, to keep chasing validation or to live from truth. One path will leave you exhausted and empty, the other may be hard at times, but it will lead you to peace. Because there is nothing more liberating than being yourself, fully, truthfully, and without apology. That is where love finds you. That is where healing takes root. That is where life finds you. That is where healing takes root. That is where life truly begins.